Here we go. Just let me set up my phone real quick so I can see the chat. And there we go. So, what is this about? I'm gonna have a presentation on Wednesday about game engines and audio middleware in my seminar on music and video games, though it's more like audio and video games overall. And yeah, I'm just gonna practice it. Like the whole presentation is gonna be in German since I'm going to a German university and the course is in German. But I'll translate everything to English, of course. You can see that on the "und" here, which is the German word for "and". And at the same time, I'll also be able to keep track of... No, that's not a typo. That's the Bamboozle. It's German. So what was I saying? Oh yeah, it will also give me the chance to see how long it is. Since I have to make sure that it's like exactly 1.5 hours long, or rather shorter, since it's better if I have some space at the end in case there are some questions. But yeah, I might have to cut some things out, potentially. Okay. Oh, and you can see my OBS stream. Okay. And yeah, let me know if like the presentation is louder than my voice and stuff, because I'll have to talk about some video scenes every now and then. Also have a script. It's in German too, so I'll have to translate as I go. So that will be interesting. 1.5 hours, including questions. So the whole class or the seminar is 1.5 hours long in total, and I have those 1.5 hours because the professor said that he doesn't really know much about especially game engines, so, and he'll probably ask a lot of questions too, because he, as I said, he doesn't really know that much about them. So yeah, I gotta make sure that there's enough room for questions. Like, I'll let the people ask questions in between. Not at the very end, but like they can ask stuff whenever. So feel free to ask me anything if you don't understand something as well. That will be kind of a simulation of what kind of questions might arise. So I'm more prepared. Okay. So let's see, it's 2:04. Let me wait. Oh yeah. Okay, we're gonna start right now. It's exactly 12 p.m. and 5 minutes. Okay. So I'm gonna hold my presentation about game engines and audio middleware. But I'll mostly concentrate on audio middleware, since this is the like actual part that has to do with audio. But yeah, let me show you what I'm actually gonna present on. So here is the part about game engines. I'm gonna give you like an overall overview of game engines, like what are they, what kind of game engines are there, and then I'm gonna show you a specific one, Unity. On the topic for audio middleware, I'll give you another overall overview, and then talk about Fmod, mainly in relation to music, and Wise, mainly in relation to sound effects. What those two softwares and what audio middleware in overall is what I'm gonna explain pretty soon. I'm also gonna show you games that use these audio middlewares. In the case of Fmod, I'm gonna show you Celeste, and in the case of Wise, I'm gonna show you Limbo, and also show their projects. Okay, but let's start with game engines. What's a game engine? So Unity describes game engines as follows. A game engine is a software that provides game creators with the necessary set of features to build games quickly and efficiently. So it's software that gives you tools, pretty much, with which you can then create a game. You can import assets, meaning pictures, music, and so on, order them, and tell them how they are supposed to behave, these assets and objects that you import. Jeff Ward, who is a programmer who also programmed for Bethesda. You might know Bethesda from games like the Elder Scrolls series, like Skyrim, or Doom, or Fallout. This doesn't mean that he composed for those games, but he did work for a company that made these great games. I think I accidentally said compose instead of program. But yeah, he didn't necessarily program for those games. But yeah, he does he sets 3 different kinds of game engines. Roll your own game engines, mostly ready game engines, and point and click engines. So roll your own game engines are pretty much built from the ground up. Oh yeah, good question. Do you need to understand coding to use game engines? Hi Joe. Joe, was Joe the Englishified name? Because I'm still not sure how to pronounce Johannes in like English. But hi. Okay, question. Do you need to understand coding to use a game engine? I'm actually gonna get to the point right here, because yeah, I guess it's gonna explain itself in a bit. So don't worry, the question will be answered. Okay, well, your own game engines are made from the ground up, and the advantage is, Hyperjurgis, and the advantage is that they have pretty much everything you need and not more and no less. But the downside is that you have to actually build them up, like you have to actually program them. Usually it's big game developers who do this, like for example Breath of the Wild. Zelda Breath of the Wild was I'm pretty sure done with a game engine that Nintendo themselves created, not with one you can get online. But yeah, it costs money and time to actually do this, which is why many game developers actually use mostly ready game engines, which already have most of the very important parts already done. You still need to program things, especially to get the most out of them. But you save time and money. And last of all, point and click engines. These are the game engines that you don't actually need any programming knowledge to use. But they also are pretty restricted. So that should answer your question, Alfred. Point and click engines don't need any programming knowledge. But there's the problem that number 2, mostly ready game engines and point and click engines, there's the line between them is pretty blurred. There are a lot of mostly ready game engines that can also be used as point and click engines and the other way around. Like an example is Unity, which we are gonna look at soon. You can do a lot with programming. You can change up the engine, like what it's gonna do. You can program your own like parts. But you can also use it as a point and click engine without having to program anything. Okay, let me show you a list of game engines. This list, if the video is gonna play, there we go. This list is taken from Wikipedia. Let's gonna just scroll down. A few of them you might know, like the Cry engine. That one's pretty well known. Let's see, Game Maker Studio, Go.engine, and most of them are free. As you can see, the list goes on and on. It's pretty long, and it doesn't even include all of the engines that have ever been made. Like there are even a lot more. But to be fair, there are also a lot of... Yeah, I don't have to show you the whole... Oh, that's Unity. the one we're gonna look at soon. Okay, let me show you a few engines. Oh, Nightmares was made by a small team, actually. Like an indie team, that's what they are called, independent. That's what indie stands for, meaning that they don't have as many monetary resources as these big games like Kingdom Hearts and Street Fighter V. So as you can see, big companies use Unreal Engine, which is a mostly ready game engine, as well as small developers. Next up, we have the Game Maker Studio. Game Maker Studio is usually mostly used for by indie developers, meaning smaller developers. You can see here Hyperlight Drifter, Wondersong, and Undertale. Yeah, as Alfred said, you can ask questions. If you have any, ask away, because this is like a simulation of the actual presentation, which is gonna be on Wednesday, which I'm gonna hold at my university. So, and I'm gonna let them ask questions as well, whenever. So, yeah, the Game Maker Studio is usually used by indie developers, meaning smaller developers, not as much by big developers. No more dragons, please don't. Okay. Next up, we have Unity, the one we're gonna look at soon. Games that were made with Unity are Cuphead, Monument Valley, and Hollow Knight. Again, 3 very well-known games. It's gonna let you look at them a bit, since it took for the videos a bit to wind up. Okay, so let me actually get to Unity. I'm gonna show you how it looks. Same for Audio Middleware, I won't be able to actually show you or teach you how to use them. The time's way too scarce for that. But I can at least show you how they look and how they can function. Just needs a second to start up. There we go. Okay, this is a Unity project. So I'm just gonna explain you all these windows, what they mean and what they do. So over here we have the scene editor, and this is a scene, and in these scenes are objects. Objects are pretty much the assets that you can import, like graphics or audio. You can tell them how they are supposed to behave. Like for example, we have this here, this figure. Let's see if I can find it over here. Oh, there we go, figurine. Like this figurine is has multiple parts, like the arms, the hair, and the leg. This is because it actually moves, which you'll see pretty soon. So I can say don't show the arm, or show the arm, and I can also move the arm around if I want to. This looks pretty creepy, but yeah. Actually need to get my script here real quick. Okay, and here you can see the preview screen. Like in this screen, you can actually test play this game as it is right now. So if I press the play button, I can try the game. There you go. You can see how it moves and stuff. You can press on start. You can play the game, and so on. Over here, you have the inspector window where you can actually tell the objects how to behave. Like you can see its position. You can also change its position. Like it's pretty far away now. Let's do this. Okay. You can give it Actually, I should probably pull up the dictionary just in case I don't know a word. The features, the properties, there we go. You can change their properties, meaning how they should behave, as I said. Down here, you have the debug window. In this debug window, you get like error messages. As you can see right here, there's a lot of them. And you can also let this window output like text for you. If you're a programmer, you can say, okay, when this happens, give me the text in this debug window 1. And if another thing happens, give me the output 2, the text 2. And this way the programmer can check if things actually happen in the right order, for example. So it's pretty much for getting errors and fixing those errors. And then over here you have the asset window. Like this is just a folder structure, meaning you can put the assets into folders, like animation, audio, code, all of those. Let me, for example, show you the audio over here. You can listen to it. Okay, I'm gonna answer your question in a second, Alfred. And the code, which is in C#. Unity mainly uses C#. Here's a random code snippet, which I can show you. That's what it looks like. And yeah, but like I said, you don't have to use code in Unity. You can technically make use it as a point and click engine, but you kind of restrict yourself with this, since code gives you more options. Okay, so questions: why don't you use .gif file for animations instead? My programmer buddy likes the sprite animator here, so he used those, and he's more comfortable with using the sprite animator here instead of making GIFs, because for GIFs you need to have like multiple different pictures. You can technically use another program that makes those different pictures, like animates those pictures for you, so you don't have to draw all of them one by one. But you might as well use the sprite animator here, which then moves the objects around as you want, instead of having to draw all these pictures independently. It's like stretches the object and stuff. Question: how do people make 3D games in Unity? Oh, exactly. I actually forgot to mention this. This is actually important. You can use like this here is the 2D view, but you can also make games in 3D if you just switch to the 3D view. So here's a 3D room, as you can see, a 2D room, sorry, and it's set on 2D. So you can switch this into 3D mode, and there you go. This is a 3D environment now. And you can actually see that this 2D picture is actually built up in 3D space. You actually have objects behind objects, like these mountains are behind each other. I actually can't tell you how to, like, one by one do a 3D game, since I've never done that. But I can at least show you that there's an option to switch from 2D to 3D. And like arrange things in 3D space. This and this, forward and back, to side, like in 3 directions pretty much. Okay, don't save because it's gonna look like a mess if I open it up next time. Okay, so that was it about game engines. Now we get to audio middleware. So what is audio middleware? You can pretty much imagine it as an add-on that's integrated into the game engine. It allows the audio team to do like audio things in the game, to build in audio, especially interactive and adaptive audio, into the game without having any programming knowledge. I'm gonna show you Fmod and Wise, as I mentioned at the beginning, because those two are the main industry standards. If you ever apply at a big video making firm, as some audio person, you will have to know, like in the description, it will most certainly say that you have to know either Fmod or Wise. We're gonna look at both. Yep, it's German. I'm German and I'm holding the presentation at a German university, so everything's in German here, but I'm translating it. Oh yeah, exactly. I should remember that GIF files are larger too. Okay, thanks Alfred. Okay, first I'm gonna show you Fmod in like relation to its music with Celeste as an example, and then Wise with Limbo. But you have to keep in mind, I'm gonna show you Fmod and music, but you can also make sound effects, interactive or adaptive sound effects in Fmod, and the other way around, you can also make interactive and adaptive music in Wise. I'm just gonna split this up so this presentation isn't as long. Okay, let's first get to Fmod. This is how Fmod describes itself on the website. Fmod Studio is an end-to-end solution for adding sounds and music to any game. Build adaptive audio using the Fmod Studio authoring tools and play it in-game using the Fmod Studio audio engine. So yeah, as I said, it's there to implement audio resources into games. You can theoretically do many of the things you can do in Fmod just per code as well, but it's more takes more time and is at more effort than just using an audio middleware. Okay, we can look at the firms that have used Fmod and the games that have used Fmod. As you can see, there are a lot of big ones. There's Celeste, which we're gonna look at. Indie games like Flower, Path of Exile, Skylanders, which is a Disney game, Deus Ex, StarCraft 2, Dark Souls 3. Pretty big names, definitely. I'm just gonna wait till it's gonna loop around to the Final Fantasy 2. It's gonna wait till it loops around real quick to back to the companies. I think it's set on loop, right? No, it isn't. Okay. Here you go. There's Activision, Crytek, Disney, Rockstar Games, THQ. Like, you don't have to know these games. It's just if you don't know these games or these companies, just keep in mind that many of them are pretty big. I have to mention that in the presentation on Wednesday as well, because many of the people there don't actually play video games. They're just there since they're just interested, out of curiosity. Okay, let's actually get to Fmod now. Before we get to Celeste, I'm gonna show you an example project. Because Celeste doesn't actually use all of the interesting things that you can do in Fmod. So I'm gonna show you this as an introduction to Fmod, and then we're gonna look at Celeste. Definitely need the script for that. Okay. Okay, as you can see, there are 3 parts. And before we actually look at them in detail, I'm gonna show you a video. Oh, no. There we go. I'm gonna show you a video which shows off what it does. Like, at the bottom you can see some scenes from Zelda Breath of the Wild, but this doesn't mean that the music is from Breath of the Wild. It isn't, and they most certainly didn't use Fmod. They probably used their own audio engine. It's just as an example to like visually show you what's happening here. And I'm gonna talk over it, so if my voice gets too quiet, let me know. And I'm gonna turn the volume of this video down. Okay, we start off in a quiet, like rather calm place. Like there's wind brushing through the wind brushing through the trees. So you can hear some random jingles every now and then. But then you may get closer to an enemy camp. And the music wants to tell you this place is dangerous. You can see here where it actually, on this pointer, where it is on the timeline. So now you might either just go away, like get farther away from the danger, and it goes back to the calm ambience. Or you can go into battle. And here you're fighting rather smaller enemies, but then maybe a big one joins the fight. And when he's defeated, it's supposed to go back to the calm part, since there's no enemies there anymore. The danger is gone. Okay, sorry about that. I hope I kind of managed to get it right in the presentation. But yeah, okay, let's let's just pretend that you heard everything I said. And let's look at this project here. So there are three parts: the ambience part, the like everything's calm part, the danger part, and the battle part. And the battle part has two states, either normal battle or battle against a big enemy. Let's look at these lines over here actually first. The blue one marks a loop region, meaning that if this pointer here reaches the end of this loop region, it loops back around. As you can see right here. See? It looped back around. And these green ones tell, in combination to these knobs, I'm gonna explain these knobs in a second, tell you when it's gonna hop or jump to another part. So this one says when X happens, I'm gonna jump to the part danger. Or this, when something happens, I'm gonna jump to battle. And the something is the number on this knob here. So this knob is a variable. Down here you can see the thing that it says, what has to happen or on what number this knob has to be for it to jump to danger. So this knob, the number on this knob, which you can curve up and down as you want, has to be between 0.51 and 1.50. If it's between that region, it's gonna jump to danger. For battle, it has to be between 1.51 and 2.00. And when the knob is in that region, it's gonna jump to battle. Same here, of course, has to be between 0 and 0.5 to jump back to ambience. I'm gonna demonstrate this real quick. I'm gonna put this to 0.7, for example, and it's gonna jump over here. And I can make it jump back. There you go. So, let me see. Okay, let's actually look at this part now. So the interesting parts are these multi-instrument containers. For simplicity's sake, I'm just gonna call them random container because that's what their function actually is. So in these containers you can place multiple things. Oh, question, how do you implement audio middleware to the game? You have to, I think it was, put code snippets into the project. Like if you're using Unity, you need to place code snippets into that, and then you put the fmod project folder into the Unity folder or something, but I'm really not sure, because the thing is that like a friend of mine and me, when we made a game, we tried using fmod and Wise. It didn't really work out the way that it should have, and I can't remember how we actually made it work. But yeah, actually I should probably look that up. Thanks for the question. So yeah, I'm gonna look it up later. Okay, multi-instruments. You place multiple sounds into this, or multiple sound files. In this case, I've put in this container, there are 3 sounds. Over here, there are 5 sounds. They're just random piano jingles. And so on, and these have random ambient sounds like birds chirping or crickets. Okay, so how this works. As soon as this pointer reaches one of those containers, it takes one of these sounds in the containers at random and then plays them, but just one of them every time it reaches these containers. There, it picked B, and now it picked C. Now it picked A, and then B again. Oh yeah, okay, now it's random. Okay, I was kind of worried for a second there, because it always did B, C, A, B, C, A, but no, these are picked at random. Same for these and same for these. So now you can see the piece is about 35 seconds long. Is it from the visual novel? Oh yeah, I think I might have implemented some of those into the visual novel audio pack. Can't quite remember anymore. Oh well. But yeah, as you can see, this piece is about 35 seconds long. But using these containers, you can actually extend it to about 22.5 minutes, because there are how many? 45 different combinations here. 3 times 5 times 3. And so potentially you can hear this whole thing 45 times, and every time it could be different, potentially, if it's the best optimal thing. Okay, but yeah, usually you would make it longer than 35 seconds, about 2 minutes, and then you can have this potentially be hours, an hour or so of long of different sounds, it every time sounding different, even though you just have 2 minutes of looping over and over. Okay, let's get to the danger part now. So the gimmick of this one are these green lines. So the thing is that it's only gonna jump to the next section if this pointer reaches one of those lines. Let me demonstrate. There it waits, it's waiting, and now it jumps over. So these green lines mark every bar of the piece. So this means that it's only gonna jump on beat. It's not gonna jump in the middle of the beat. It's not gonna jump on like measure 2 or 2.5, but on every first beat. It was actually used better in iMuse. Like I'm gonna mention this since last week we talked about iMuse, which was used in Monkey Island, which like did the same thing, just better. But yeah, don't worry about this. And yeah, that's the gimmick of this whole part. And then we get to battle, where the gimmick are layers. You can see 2 different layers here. One normal, like background layer. And one melody layer, where there's like a trumpet and French horn melody playing. And this melody only kicks in if there's a big enemy nearby. And this is controlled through this second knob here. Like this knob controls this volume parameter. You can see as I turn this up, the volume is gonna go up. It's the volume of this melody. So if this fader is on 0, which means there's no big enemy nearby, you won't hear this melody. It's still gonna play, but with 0 volume. Like these are gonna be played parallel to each other at the same time. And if there's an enemy nearby, it's gonna go up to 1, and you will be able to hear this melody. Let me demonstrate. So this is pretty useful if you don't know, as the game developer or programmer, when this big enemy is gonna approach. So this gives you the option to fade it in whenever during the battle. Like you can have a battle and then suddenly some big enemy that's like just randomly there is gonna come up to the player, like near them, and join the battle as well. But you can never know when this is actually gonna happen. So you want to leave this option open to fade the melody in whenever, instead of hard coding it into the like music. This is why there are 2 separate layers. Okay, I hope this explanation was understandable. It's probably gonna be more concise when I'm actually explaining it in German, but I hope I did well in English as well. Okay, now we're actually gonna get to Celeste. Celeste, not Celeste. These are sheets, but we won't worry about them right now, since I'm gonna show you a gameplay part. So I'm actually gonna play this live in the during the presentation. I'm gonna bring my Switch with me and play it there on the big screen, but I can't do it right here, so I'm just gonna show you this recording instead. So especially interesting about Celeste is the how it deals with tension and detension. Let me actually Google what the opposite of relaxation, tension and relaxation. So we're gonna look at this part here, and the how it deals with tension and climb them. You're probably gonna see this here. Okay, and now comes the interesting part. Oof, detention. Okay, so the interesting pay good attention to the music here. I'm actually gonna scroll back a bit. Pay good attention to the music, and as I said, it deals with tension and relaxation. So yeah, just listen to it and pay heed to any like changes to the music as soon as she goes up. So as you could hear, there was like a synth and some percussions, but they faded out and only a piano was left. So the reason for that is like at this part you're at the end of the level, you can't fall down, you can't actually die here, you can't hurt yourself. So there's no need for any tension anymore. So all that you're left with is the piano. Actually gonna show this to you in Fmod. Accidentally closed Fmod. Let's see, Celeste. Okay, give me a second till it loads. And there we go. This is the Celeste Fmod project. They kindly provided it to everyone for free. Like you can just download this from the Fmod website. And this here is the part. We've already talked about layers, so this is gonna be rather short. There are 3 layers in total: the percussion layer, the piano layer, and the synths layer. You can fade them in and out at will. But the thing that actually happens at the end there is that this end slider goes up. And what it does is it just mutes the synth layer and the percussion layer. So let's look at this in the sheets. I've marked the different layers with different colors. Blue for piano, red for synthesizers, and green for the drum sets. Let's just have the piano layer here. As you can hear, it's more mellow. The most interesting part here is that you actually can't hear the like lower parts of the piano, like the left hand of the piano, because it's overshadowed by the synth. But as soon as this synth and percussion layer fade out, you can hear it. So you would say it's unnecessary during the like exciting parts, since you can't hear it anyways, but it comes forth at the end of this chapter. So usually you wouldn't see this if this was one concise piece, except if you wanted to like have more bass presence, but usually you wouldn't have this left hand even, because you wouldn't hear it anyways, and because it's played by this bass synth anyways. But yeah, it makes sense here because the piano does play alone at one point in the game, or during this level. Okay, so this was rather easy to explain since we already had layers, the topic of layers. And now we're gonna get to the second thing I want to show you that has to do with well, more with tension than detension. More with tension and more tension rather than relaxation. Oof, there we go. Sorry about that. Okay, so I wanted to stop it a bit before that. But yeah, the important part to listen to is this part where she actually hits, like where Celeste hits the antagonist at the end of the hall. So okay, listen closely what happens, and sorry for the loudness. There you go. It's a bit quieter now. You can hear it makes like it shifts down the pitch like bow, like this. It gives a bit of like glitched feeling, like like you can hear audibly how you have heard the like enemy, pretty much. It's audio feedback for this. And this is where the fight is. So there's this like just melody or this piece going, and every time you hit her, like the enemy at the end of the hallway, you get this pitched part. Let me show you. Okay, so you can do things like this too. You can apply effects to the track and then make the effects happen whenever you want them to happen. Like in this case, like this pitch shift down and up again only happens when you hit this boss at the end of the hall. Okay, I actually had another example, but I had to cut it because this would have been too long otherwise. Okay. So next up, actually I might actually have more time for this than I thought I would. Maybe, okay, let's just do Wise and then see if I have more time. I'm gonna add some more things since it's only been like 45 minutes. So only half of the time that we have. Okay. Next, we will get to Wise. Wise is described as follows. Wise is the most advanced, feature-rich, interactive audio solution for games. Whether you're an indie or a multi-million-dollar production, Wise will work for you. The Wise audio solution has made its mark in the gaming industry and is now facilitating the advancement of interactive audio across multiple sectors. So yeah, it's pretty much the same thing that Fmod is. It just looks and functions a bit differently. It's mainly the look. Well, no, never mind. Scratch that. It's the function as well. Actually, I'm not gonna say this in the actual presentation, but fun fact. This part, Wise will work for you. It didn't work for me. Actually, my friend my programmer friend and me, we wanted to use Wise for something and we couldn't get it to work no matter what we tried. So we had to switch to Fmod, which worked at least half, kind of. Okay, just fun fact. Here you can see again games that use Wise. So Overwatch, which is pretty big, Valkyrie, big firms like Capcom, Bandai Namco, 2K. So yeah, just like Fmod, Wise is pretty big. Definitely, it's used by many and big corporations as well as small corporations. Like Insight, for example. It's the like spiritual sequel of Limbo, the game we are gonna look at in a second, which was made by a smaller company. Okay, let's actually get to Limbo. Since, as opposed to Celeste, I can show you the gameplay as much, and it won't be as like, you won't get the like premise of Limbo quite as much if I just play a section of it for you. I'm gonna show you a trailer. There you go. This is Limbo. It's a pretty dark and atmospheric game. You can actually see in this trailer that most of what you hear is sound effects. Okay, let's get to Wise and let me show you Limbo. Not Limbo. Let me show you Wise and the Limbo project. Okay, so one thing that I can show you, which also works in Fmod, but I couldn't do it because I don't have this less project here. But they let you, like Wise, you can download Wise with the Limbo project and the Limbo demo to do this. I'm gonna show you in a second what I mean. I'm gonna open Limbo up. There you go. And then you can connect the running game to Wise, which is what usually people working in Wise also do, so they can check live how like the sounds work. Gonna change to this view. Okay, you can see over here, up here, you can see how the ambience is played. Like you can see what is played over here in this window. And as I run, you can see the boy run sound pop up. Boy run step here. Like you can check live what sounds are played at any moment while you play the game. You can also change them live. Let's turn this up. Let's turn this up all the way. It's gonna take a second to sync, but it's gonna be like a loud wind sound. I hope. There we go. So you could actually alter the wind sound live to make it louder. So you can adjust things live as you go. If you hear like, oh, this sound is too loud, I need to adjust it. You can do this in that window. Okay, let's actually get to what you can do in here. So, okay, there we go. We're gonna look at these containers. These containers are the core, like these 4 here are the core of Wise. And you also have here like the sound effect. This is the actual sound that you put in here. Okay, let's look at the containers. You have one random container here. This random container, like you can put sounds in them. It's a container. You put things into it. And this container picks sounds at random from it. Like whenever this event is called, like whenever this sound is called, whenever the game says, okay, play, in this example, play run step noise, it's gonna play one of those 14 random sounds. It's pretty quiet, I think. Might have to turn it up in the actual presentation. But yeah, you can hear kind of the sound and see that it's played. And it's every time a different sound. Every time a different one is picked. You can edit things, like give it properties like standard, like it should play normal randomly. It's just gonna pick one sound at random. Or you can pick shuffle. Shuffle removes objects from the pool, as it says over here. Like whenever a sound is played, that sound is removed and can't be played until all of these other sounds have been played as well. So in this, it has to play all these 14 sounds. Like it's gonna pick a random order, but it's gonna play all of these 14 sounds first, like, and then it loops around and lets it pick another sound that has been played before. This avoid repeating last tells you which last, like if it plays, let's go to standard, if it plays one sound and you don't want this sound to repeat again the next time, like it could per random chance maybe repeat again, you can put it to avoid repeating last one played. This way you won't get the same sound twice. This way you won't get the same two, or like the last two sounds won't be played when you call this event the 3rd time. Or in this case it was at 4, so the last 4 sounds that were played won't appear again on the 5th time. Oh. Okay. Next up we have the sequence container. So I'll have to fully materials, jump forward. There we go. This is a sequence container. So what a sequence container does, it just plays sounds in a sequence that are in here, like after each other. So in this case you can even see like a container in a container. I have to actually look up the word. Nesting, that's what it's called. Okay, so this is pretty much nesting. You have a container in a container. So yeah, as I said, a sequence container plays a sequence of sounds after each other, like in one go. Like it plays the steep heel ground, then steep toes ground, if it's called. So it plays 2 sounds right after each other. In this case, it picks a random sound from steep heel ground and then a random sound from step toes ground. So you have a combination of, let's see, 6, times 4, that's 24. So we have 24 possible combinations of this jump forward ground sound, because it's gonna pick a random from this container and then a random one from this container and combine them. Next up we have a switch container, which is this here. This here is a switch container in which there are again more containers. So you can have pretty complicated structures in Wise. And the switch container is pretty much like a train track. Like, you know, train tracks go. Actually, I can pull up Paint for this. So, here we go. It's time for some Paint action. So you have train tracks, and those can go in either direction. Like this, they can branch out. So this is path 1, this is path 2, this is path 3. And this is pretty much what this switch container does as well. It checks, in this case, okay, what ground am I on? Am I on the branch ground? Like, is the main character walking on branches? Is the main character running on grass? Is he currently on metal? And depending on that, it switches the like path that this goes. Like this would be grass, this would be concrete, this would be metal. And if it's on metal, it says, okay, go down this route whenever that audio event is called. Or if he's on grass, it says, okay, go down this audio event path. Okay, so yeah, whenever this is called, it checks, okay, what ground am I on? And depending on that, it plays the corresponding sound or the corresponding container. And last but not least, we have the blend container. Let's see. Foley. Metal grid. Here we go. This is a blend container, in which there are again 2 random containers. So, gonna answer your question in a second, since I'm almost done with this anyways. The blend container is kind of like a sequence container, just that instead that it plays the sounds after each other, it plays the sounds at the same time. So it plays these, it picks like a random sound from this container and a random sound from this container and plays them at the same time. Like this is a like metallic sound, and this is a like jump sound. So it combines the metallic sound and the jump sound to make a metallic jump sound, pretty much. Or like a jump sound with metallic repercussions. Now to get to your question, what are the advantages and disadvantages of Wise? So I can only speak from my own experience. One disadvantage I feel is that Wise is pretty sound effect centered. Like this is also the reason why I showed Wise in combination with sound effects instead of music. Because you can do a lot, like this is an advantage, you can do a lot more with sound effects than in Fmod. But you can do, it's less optimized for music. Fmod in exchange is more optimized for music. Another disadvantage is that it's pretty complicated. Like it can get convoluted and it takes longer to learn. And the like UI isn't as nice looking, I guess, if you want to see this as a disadvantage. So yeah. Sum it up, disadvantages is harder to learn and sound effect focused, like less features for music. And advantage is that actually it's disadvantage that it is so sound effects focused, so that you can do a lot of awesome things with sound effects in this. And yeah, that's its big advantage from my experience. It's also been on, I think it has been around longer than Fmod as well, so it's a bit more advanced. Like it's been around longer, so that people had more experience with it. There's been more feedback to improve Wise. But don't quote me on it. I'm not quite sure when Wise and when Fmod were released. The advantage of Fmod is that it's more like music focused. It actually looks like a audio workstation. You have these linear parts and tracks. You don't have this on Wise. There are no tracks here. They're just sound effects. Even if you look at the music, if there even is music here, there you go. Those are more like jingles. I don't think they might have used and not used this kind of music here. Okay, here we go. So they actually use more like jingles here. I think they might have actually hard-coded the music instead of using Wise for it. Okay. Which one do you prefer more to use, Wise or Fmod? Definitely Fmod, because Fmod is easier to use and I'm more music focused. You can do things like these random containers in pretty easily in Fmod too. And I guess technically even blend containers, but it takes more effort. That's the downside. But I do work more with music than I work with sound effects, which is why I prefer using Fmod. It also looks cleaner and nicer, kind of, all the colors. It's easier on the eyes. And like I said, easier to understand, in my opinion. Okay, last but not least, I would show the handout. And like they get this handout at the beginning, like it has all the information summed up pretty much, like with the quotes, where the quotes are from, and especially the extended resources. Like we have here the Anxiety of Celeste and its music, which is a game score fanfare video about Fmod, about Celeste.
Of being stressful, but also enjoy.
There you go. So if you want to check it out, you can. Right, I only did a rough analysis of first steps. That was the sheet music that I showed, the track from Celeste. Here's a more advanced analysis. Like it's 26 minutes long. Gonna answer your questions in a question in a second. Gonna finish this up real quick. The links. Then there's the Limbo Wise tutorial, which shows you how Limbo is used with Wise.
Turquoise and white. When it's red, these are the original AUI files, but they're...
And there's like the overall just like tutorials for Fmod, how Fmod works if you wanna check it out, since you know the internet at my like place here. You can look at if you want to learn how to use Wise. Okay. Let me actually answer a question now. What do people need to consider when putting audio middleware to their games? First of all, do you need it? I guess this is an important part. Do you actually need to use audio middleware? Because if you don't even use adaptive audio, there's no sense in using it and like complicating your procedure. I actually don't like this black screen. Let me get here again. Okay. Adaptive audio means that the audio actually changes as you play. If you make a retro game, for example, you usually didn't use adaptive audio, you might consider not using Fmod or Wise or audio middleware in general. But if you do, like if you actually want to do crazy things or like interactive things, implement interactive audio or adaptive audio, then you definitely want to use audio middleware. One thing to consider, I think you need to choose one of those. I don't think implementing Fmod and Wise into one project makes sense. Like I would give you the advice, use Wise if you want to do a lot of things with sound effects, and use Fmod if you want to do a lot of things with music, like interactive and adaptive music. Okay, I think that's pretty much the main part that you should consider if you are thinking of putting audio middleware in your game. Oh yeah, and it also you also need to consider if your engine that you're using is actually compatible with audio middleware. Like Unity and Unreal Engine and stuff there, of course, are compatible with audio middleware. And but for example, RenPy or RPG Maker aren't really compatible at all, I believe, unless you like reprogram the whole engine. So where are you gonna present? At my university, I'm studying musicology, and there's a course right now called Music and Video Games, and I'm attending it. And to like get the points, you have to hold a presentation and or make a paper, write a paper. I'm doing both, so I'm getting double the credits for this course. But yeah, does implementing audio middleware make the game heavy? I'd say not too much. Like all the code from the audio middleware is gonna be in the project. Like you have another code chunk and like resource chunk in there, but it's not too big. I think the advantage of having them overrides the deficiencies. I mean, the thing is, like for example, this multiple layers, you do have 3 sound files in here, pretty much. And so it's gonna be about maybe 2 times the size of if you had them in one project. It's not gonna be 3 times the size, since it doesn't add up like that from experience. But yeah, it will get heavier if you use a lot of layers. But I wouldn't say too heavy. All in all, I guess it's the trade-off. Do you want to, if you make a simple phone game, for example, you might not need to use Fmod or Wise at all, since people don't listen to the music that often anyways. So you can just use your engine to implement the audio. We actually used Fmod to implement the audio in Chicken Hero, the game that a friend of mine and me made. And we had to like reduce the quality of the pieces by quite a lot, since it would lag otherwise on some devices, including my own phone. So yeah, it can make it heavier and more intensive. But if you like use a normal computer and make a computer game with Fmod, like Celeste is, or like on a normal like game console like the Switch, then you won't have too many problems. I guess it's a trade-off. You do want to have like a lot of like interactive audio, adaptive audio, or do you want to have more space? Actually, since we have about 15 more minutes left, I can actually show you something that I didn't make part of this presentation because I feared that it would be too long. Another game engine. I showed Unity, which is an example of a of a do-it-yourself, or mostly implemented mostly ready game engine. There we go. And I can show you an example of a point and click engine. But first I'm gonna answer the question. Where do you use the adaptive audio efficiently? Well, I think, well, efficiently. I guess that's a part. I guess, well, you can use adaptive audio wherever you want to, if you want to, like, I don't know, have it overly adaptive. But I guess if you want to use it efficiently, you would want to make sure that it actually means something, like that the adaptive audio holds some meaning. In the case of Celeste, for example, like the meaning of like the first level, which I showed off over here, where it gets quiet, like it actually has some meaning to it. It tells the player, okay, you're safe here. There's no tension anymore. Or in the other example from Celeste, where it says, oh, this enemy has taken a big hit. Like you might not need to implement adaptive audio, like to save space. If you want to do it efficiently, if you, if it doesn't carry any meaning with it. Okay. Let's get to the other engine. This is a point and click engine, the RPG Maker, VXAs in this case. Like the whole series, like there's a whole series of these engines. This one is called RPG Maker, like the series, and this version is called VXAs. So you don't have to code anything to make something. I'm not gonna show you how to actually use this. I'm gonna show it off to like show you that you don't need to code anything to use this. You can do this. You can make like a circle here. I think adaptive audio can be efficiently used for horror games to add some spooky matters. Yeah, you can. I mean, horror music especially relies a lot on like sound effects and stuff. Oh yeah, RPG Maker time. Okay, so yeah, you can draw a map here, and you can place events. So events are the things that you interact with. Let's, for example, make someone you can talk to. He's gonna say hi. Okay, so I have him here, and if you talk to him, he's gonna say, hey, hi. Let's test play this game. It's gonna be a bit loud, sorry. Okay, it's a bit small of a window because I have it in windowed mode. So we can walk up to this person. We don't actually have to program how we walk and stuff. It's just already done. And he says hi. That's it. We didn't have to program even a little bit. We didn't have to program anything at all. And it's there. It's done. As you can see, you can choose from a menu of things that can happen. Like show a message or like program stuff like put a switch to on or off. Like you can say, okay, if you talk to this character, this switch for door open is gonna go to on and the door is gonna open. I guess I have like 10 more minutes, so I might as well. Yep, I'm the new Varan. Okay, let's just call this door open. Might as well make something a bit more complicated if we have the time. And here is a door. Here we go. Let's actually have a more modern door. Okay, and if the switch door open is on, but you need another state. You don't have to understand how this actually works. It's just there. It's just to show you that you don't need to do any programming. So the door is closed, and if door open is on, it's gonna be open. And it's gonna open as soon as we talk to that character. The door is open. So yeah, you don't need to program anything, but you can, which is why I said that things can be like the line between mostly ready game engines and point-and-click engines is kind of slim. As you can see here, there's code, and you can change that code. You can even place your own code in here. So yeah, you can code if you want to. And rip your ears. How to make a weapon. You go to the database, go to weapons. Here's like a list of already made weapons. You just change the maximum to one more. Now you have one place more. Gonna name this made weapon of doom. Choose an icon. Let's see, this looks like a good weapon. Ultimate weapon that kills anything. Oh. And you can say, okay, if you hold this weapon, you have 10 strength more, meaning you can do more damage. And yeah, there you have a weapon. And you can say, okay, if you want to buy it, it costs 100 gold, for example. Okay, and what about RenPy? I'm not sure if I'm gonna show RenPy. Actually, I might as well. I mean, have RenPy launcher opened here with Pengambara. Might as well just, if I actually have enough time, like I still have 10 minutes left, I might as well just show off engines, because the professor said he doesn't know much about engines. So might as well show off a few, because he said he hopes that I'm gonna fill the whole 1.5 hours. So that's what I'm gonna try to do. But I mean, a bit of time will get lost, because I will have to switch the HDMI cable from my laptop to the Switch, and then when I play the part and then switch back again, or I will have to like go around and turn down the volume on the mixer. We have a mixer in our classroom, like not an actual mixer, just a knob that controls the overall volume. But yeah, I might as well show like this thing, that tutorial, and how it looks, and that you actually have to program a bit more. This is less of a point-and-click engine. Like, let's see. French, Russian. I'm actually not sure what of these is the... Is this the example? She wanna find the thing where she talks. Oh well, but yeah, I guess I can show off the programming a bit. Like this uses Python. RPG Maker uses Ruby as the programming language. So actually I have to code a bit more in this engine, but it's still restricted, kind of, because it's mainly Taurus a bit. Oh, I think it's good for showing off this. What's with this movie? Okay. Weird music. But yeah. You can make games in this style. With RenPy. Okay. So I still technically have 5 minutes left, but I mean, I'm not too worried because I will actually, like I said, I will have to actually play through the levels and put my, switch the HDMI cable from my laptop to the Switch every time I play a part. Ooh, the question. I guess I would rather show the question in that case. Show the script here. Like, or show how you can actually show the text over here. How you show pictures. Oops. Yeah, this is easier. So you can play through these games. Bad ending, oh god. Well, nice. Okay, and this would be pretty much my presentation. And I think it should amount to about 1.5 hours, even without the RenPy part. Like, I will definitely leave RenPy and RPG Maker as backups if the time ends up being too much. If I end up only talking 1 hour and 15 minutes, I can still use the remaining 15 minutes to show off RPG Maker as a backup. Okay, and that's it. I think that sums it up pretty much. I think that means it's time for me to get some food. Finally. Whew. Okay. I hope you enjoyed my presentation on game engines and audio middleware. Maybe you end up using some of those yourself. Like I said, there are more audio middleware, I guess, just a side note right now, than Fmod and Wise. Like iMuse, which was used by LucasArts for their Monkey Island game. But yeah, these are the industry standards. Okay, thanks a lot for listening, and thanks a lot for the questions too. I think I should have a realistic scope of how long this presentation is gonna go this way. And I've practiced it, so I should be all prepared for holding this presentation on Wednesday. Wish me luck, and I'll see you around. Bye.